me, Anthony, in a slightly different location today. So I hope you can handle this. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of change going on today. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, which is a place that is nowhere near where I'm usually. I'm usually in California. Today, Cleveland, Ohio. And so many things to talk about today. Very excited about all of it. Let me just adjust this thing here. It's a very strange device. Let me see what's happening with this. Just give this a little twist. There we go. Just wanted to hear myself a little bit louder. Oh, I sound great. I really hope you appreciate that I sound as good as this, because for some reason I do. I don't know why. I think it's this new thing. It's nothing to do with me. It just showed up. So this is Backchannel. I'm Anthony. Carla's in London. She's producing the show. I am in Cleveland. You are wherever you choose to be. Lots of ways to get in touch with the show, as you know. You can message us. You can talk to your device. If you've got an Amazon Echo device, then you just wake it up by saying the wake up word, followed by say. Say is the magic word. And then after say, you just say your message, whatever that is today. You can choose. So that's kind of how it works. And if you want to join us, then jump on and I'll see that you're here, and then it'll be easy peasy. Okay, let me open up our show here. Now, oh yes, I can see what we're doing. Got a whole load of stuff to do. We're going to do the newspapers. We're going to look around Cleveland, Ohio, as young people are awarded scholarships for getting a COVID vaccine. We'll be asking, why are incentives necessary and what's more effective, rewards or deterrence? So that's something to look at as well. We're going to talk about Mike Pence. He'll be making his speech in the Supreme Court today regarding abortion. As you know, he is very pro-life rather than pro-choice, and which I should say he's anti-abortion. It's probably a better kind of example of what he's all about. He's anti-abortion because he's an old white man and he wants to tell young women what they can do with their bodies. That's his thing, you know. It's his thing. And as he publishes a book and a podcast, is Trump's number 2 planning to run for president? Is the question. So much to talk about there. CNN's Chris Cuomo. We're going to talk about him. He put family first and his job second. When it came to advising his brother about this sexual harassment case. So should he just be sacked? And what's taking the network so long is the question. It's kind of a loaded question. I can only apologize about that. We'll take a look at that story a little bit later. And also, is Christmas overrated? Join us for a fun debate about whether it's all a marketing ploy or if it truly is the most wonderful time of the year. I'm having a wonderful time. I love Christmas. What are you talking about? So we've got all that stuff to look at, but we're going to jump into the morning papers first and see what's happening, across the world. So let me do that for you now. Let's see what's happening here. The Wall Street Journal is where we're going to start this morning. They lead with a photograph of the European Union. It's Iran's chief nuclear negotiator waiting for the start of a meeting in Vienna yesterday to resume talks aimed at salvaging the 2015 nuclear deal. And that was, of course, something that Donald Trump, when he was the president, he decided that they would come out of the nuclear deal, the Iran nuclear deal, that was done. He'd had enough of that. He'd had enough of that. He was like, I'm done with that. Never read it, obviously. Never read the Iran nuclear deal. He just, in his head, he was like, well, if they are the baddies and we are the goodies, why would we have a deal with them? That is literally as far as his analysis went. They're the baddies, we're the goodies. That's as far as it goes. So it's very interesting to me that, now Biden and his people are having to kind of get back into the Iran nuclear deal because, of course, Iran have been enriching uranium in the meantime. Like that was ever a good idea. CDC recommends all adults get booster to fight variant. That's also on the front of the newspaper. It says the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention strengthened its COVID-19 booster shot recommendations, reflecting the potential threat of the new Omicron variant to the pandemic response in the US and worldwide. I got my booster. I wouldn't have been comfortable getting on an aeroplane or 2 airplanes yesterday if I didn't have my booster, but I do. And it just feels like, I don't know, that little extra layer of protection, I guess. So it says the CDC recommended yesterday that everyone 18 and older get an additional shot after completing a first course of COVID-19 vaccination. So that's how it is. We're going to look at this a little bit later, talk about how in Cleveland they're having to, or not Cleveland, but Ohio, they're having to kind of incentivize people to want to, get vaccinated or get a booster shot, certainly. So let me put that over there. I'm just moving some windows around here because I'm working on a different screen today. I'm working on, everything's different. Everything's different, and I think I'm coping rather well, Carla, don't you think? I'm actually in a podcast studio. This is a proper podcast studio. And I don't really like this microphone. This would not be my microphone of choice. This is a Yeti. And I saw a video of Lara Trump yesterday. She does her own video podcast. She's a relation. Isn't she isn't she Eric Trump's wife, Lara Trump? I think so. Anyway, so she had this microphone, which is what we call a side address microphone. You talk into this bit of it. Hello, 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 right? That's what you're talking to. She had it set up on her desk, pointing at her, and she was talking into the end of it. She was talking to the wrong bit. And I thought to myself, that's actually quite good, because it means that nobody will be able to hear her lies and propaganda, because she's talking into the wrong bit of the microphone. So that's kind of where we're at. So this is, I don't know how this sounds. How does it sound to you? Does it sound okay? Does it sound different? Sounds a bit different to me. Also on the front of the Wall Street Journal, Amazon gets federal order to hold new union vote. This is very interesting. It says a federal official ordered a new unionization vote for Amazon.com workers in Alabama, saying the company violated labor law in its campaign against organizing earlier this year, according to the National Labor Relations Board. So this is something that's been going on for ages. Amazon claim that they want people to be unionized, but the unions are claiming that Amazon don't want them to be unionized. And so there's this whole thing. Amazon are like, we're a very good employer. There's nothing we do wrong. We pay $15 an hour. We do really good healthcare. And then, so that's what you hear from Amazon. And then you also hear workers going, well, I don't get a toilet break. So it's like, you have to kind of weigh up, like, who's speaking the truth here. It's very interesting to me. So I personally think that, unions are obviously a buffer, aren't they, between the employer and the worker. And a buffer can only be a good thing. That's my feeling. What else do we have here? Workers quit jobs in droves, it says, to become their own bosses. The pandemic has unleashed a historic burst in entrepreneurship and self-employment. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are striking out on their own as consultants, retailers, and small business owners. The move helps explain the ongoing shake-up in the world of work, with more people looking for flexibility, anxious about COVID exposure, upset about vaccine mandates, or simply disenchanted with pre-pandemic office life. So, that's kind of... I'm a great proponent of this. I'm a freelancer, run my own business. I haven't worked for people, like gone into an office for a long time. So is that something that you would consider? Is it something that have you thought about? Have you changed? I'm just to The Anthony Davis Show, because I realized that I signed in with the wrong thing. There we go, look. The Anthony Davis Show. That's better. Look, bing. See, there it is. Reappears. So let me go back to the newspapers here. We're looking at the Wall Street Journal. The boost Jack Dorsey, of course, and Jack Dorsey. They say Twitter said on Monday Chief Executive Officer Jack Dorsey is stepping down, a departure driven in part by investors uncomfortable with his roles running two large publicly traded companies, according to people familiar with the matter. The Twitter co-founder, one of Silicon Valley's most prominent figures, is also CEO of digital payments company Square, Inc. I've never really heard of Square. I mean, I know it's a thing, but I don't really know much about it. I don't think I've ever used it. Talking of these weird companies, a very interesting thing happened to me yesterday. When I went to the airport to, check in and go through security, I asked a guy where I should go, and he said, "Oh, you don't want to go through there because there's 200 people in line to go through security. Why don't you sign up for Clear?" And I said, well, what? And he dragged me over to a kiosk. He said, give me your credit card and give me your ID. And I was like, okay. Gave it to him. Only in America could you get away with this. And he signed me up to a commercial product that enables you to skip the line at the airport. A commercial product. And he said, you can cancel it in 14 days if you don't want to continue. Do you know how much it would charge me in 14 days if I don't cancel? Around $170. He basically signed me up to an annual skip the line thing. They're calling it Clear. And there were kiosks to sign up to this. And I was like, wow, how do they get away with that? Like trying to get people to sign up to something that they have no knowledge of, have read nothing about in advance. I've now given Clear my credit card details and my ID. They now have copies of that. So obviously I'll use it for the return journey as well to jump the line. And then once that's done, I'm just going to cancel. It just occurred to me, it's like they commercialize everything. They commercialize everything, even jumping the line. Anyway, it made me think of that because we were talking about Jack Dorsey and Square, and oh, hi Stacey. Stacey's here. Yeah, I'm ready for the lunch hour, Stacey. Boney's here. Hi, Boney. Thank you for joining us. Boney's in Texas. No, Stacey's in Texas. Boney's in California. Maybe you've signed up for something that you kind of thought, well, what is this? Do I even need this? Have you signed up to something you've forgotten to cancel? Because that's what worries me. You end up signing up for something and you're like, maybe I should have cancelled that before it charged me $170. I really need to make a note in my calendar to cancel this thing. Anyway, here we are. I'm in Cleveland, and I didn't really have to wait in line behind 200 people to get here. It was not a very comfortable journey. I went via Minneapolis. I had to change aeroplanes. The second aeroplane, the door fell off. I'm not even kidding. Is this allowed? The time zone. Is this allowed? I'm so hungry. It's lunchtime here. Normally I do this show at 9 o'clock Pacific. It's 12:14 here. So Stacey and I are finally on the same time zone. It's taken me 2 weeks, Stacey, to get into your time zone. What can I tell you? This is the commitment that I have to Backchannel, is that I literally am moving time zones to be closer to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. By the way, you can also follow us on the chat facility. Just go to backchannel.tv. That's where you can chat to us in the comfort of your own web browser. So you can do that on your phone, you can do that on your laptop. Just send your message via the web chat facility. Okay, so that's the Wall Street Journal done. Let's jump on another one here because I'm keen to move on. As much as I love Jack Dorsey, I really don't feel the need to kind of talk about him endlessly. President faces uncertain threat with Omicron. It's President Biden is ready to show the country that his administration is prepared for the Omicron variant. As the World Health Organization warned, there was a very high risk of new global outbreaks, a possibility that could prove demoralizing. Oh, hang on, my power dropped out. Let me plug that back in. I lost my power plug for a second just then. There we go. Oh, thank goodness. You've got to have a bit of power. This is right. Yes, the World Health Organization warned that there was a very high risk of new global outbreaks, a possibility that could prove demoralizing to Americans weary of a pandemic that began nearly 2 years ago. It's very interesting to me that people are very worried about how much time they should give this pandemic. Do you remember I said to you that because it started in an election year and Trump gave it 3 months, he was like, that's all I'm prepared to devote to this, and now I'm not interested anymore? Because, he's rich and white and pandemics don't affect him, even though he got a COVID. I worry that people have like an upper limit on how long they're prepared to give over to the pandemic. And that worries me because the pandemic's not going away. It really isn't. Genuinely, it's not going away. Like, this is it. This is it now. We are literally living in a pandemic for life that we will just deal with inoculations. That's what I feel. A bit like a flu jab or, an annual, used to go for an annual flu jab, hopefully. I think your annual COVID jab will just be normal. So what we'll do is we'll get back to normal with a jab. That will end up being how we manage this. We're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail later on. Anyway, Biden fortunately has decided not to close the border. This was my worry with him. I was worried that he was going to close the border and then we'd be in a situation, because I've got a whole lot of family coming over to spend Christmas with me here in America. So I think they're going to be okay, but you never know. Depends. And then again, you had the boss of Moderna yesterday saying, I'm not sure that the vaccine is going to work on Omicron. And that's caused a whole load of bother as well now. It's very worrying, all this, isn't it? Chasing elusive clues in killers' confessions, a story also on the front of the Los Angeles Times. We're doing the LA Times now, by the way. A city was once the calm capital of the world. It vanished, a decades-old mystery. What happened to Pismos? Oh, Pismo Beach, that's right. It's the clams there. More than a century ago, farmers with horse-drawn plows would comb the sand and haul the clams off by the wagonful. Meat was fed to the hogs. Soft ball-sized bivalves were so abundant they could be found at rolling ashore by the dozen at high tide. And now apparently not. Whatever happened to the Pismos? Volunteers search for clams, a quarter-inch and practically perfect in any way. They're Mary Poppins clams. I don't quite understand the relevance of the clams here, but, clearly it's a thing. If you care about clams, I'm not really into clams, and mussels, and cockles, whelks, like all of these nasty-looking seafood creatures. I don't mind a fresh shrimp. I like a shrimp. But I'm not getting into all those funny-looking things. They look like aliens. I'm not going to ingest an alien. It's not necessary. Also on the front of the LA Times, how thefts at a gun store became LAPD scandal. Investigation leads to a cascade of allegations against police officers. It says, before it all came crashing down, Archie Dunis's gun-stealing scheme was relatively simple, county prosecutors wrote in a memo. He just couldn't go on vacation. Yes. It says a manager of the gun store at the Los Angeles Police Academy had been reprimanded over the years for tardiness and sloppy record-keeping. But he never took time off, according to the memo. As the store's closing supervisor, he was there each night to lock up and hand count the inventory. If someone else had been assigned that count, they might have discovered that dozens of guns were missing and that Duenas was stealing them and selling them for cash, prosecutors wrote in the memo. But since he was always there, the Los Angeles Police Revolver and Athletic Club was apparently none the wiser. And this went on for years. He was always there. A lack of oversight and safety protocols that are considered the standard in other gun stores. In February 2020, his bosses told him he'd accrued the maximum allowable leave hours and had to take time off. And when he did, another manager finally made the startling discovery: boxes meant to have guns in them were actually empty. Isn't that interesting? And then the resulting investigation quickly led to his arrest. It's very interesting to me, this. That sometimes for a criminal to be caught, the pattern just has to change, the pattern of behavior. And in this case, he took time off. Very interesting. Okay, so that's how the Wall Street Journal, that's how the LA Times looks this morning. We're going to talk more about Biden and Omicron a little bit later. Because, it's very interesting to me. down here. This is the paper where I am right now, here in Ohio. Quite an amazing place, Cleveland. Got some nice bits. Metro Health CEO Akram Boutros stepped down in 2022. That's the main headline on the front of the Plain Dealer. City Council approves Progressive Field deal. This is a $435 million deal to renovate Progressive Field and extend the Cleveland Guardians' lease by 15 years. I actually drove past the home of the Cleveland Guardians about 2 hours ago this morning, so I know exactly where that is. And also out of stock, which items might be hard or hopeless to find this season? It says backlogs and supply chain issues are making shoppers work harder this holiday season. It isn't exactly news that some things might be hard to get. The real question is, what will the next shortage be? If the recent past is any indication or supply chain issues don't ease up, there are a few categories expected to be in short supply. And here are some of the items that have been running low. And it's a whole list of things like semiconductor chips. As we know, US imposed sanctions on Chinese companies like Huawei, a manufacturer of smartphones and networking gear, also prompted some Chinese firms to hoard supply, according to Wired. Yes, do you remember that Donald Trump got it into his head that Huawei was stealing, information, that it was like it was listening in. He got it into his head. There was no evidence of this. He got it into his head. And then he started this whole campaign against Huawei, who are basically the second largest cell phone manufacturer in the world. I think ahead of Apple, they tie with Samsung. Years ago, I had a relative who had a Huawei phone, and I was like, what is that? Who's heard of Huawei? Turns out, second biggest manufacturer in the world. Who knew? Anyway, the semiconductor shortage was recently blamed on the shortage of vehicles and new vehicle sales at Northeast Ohio car dealerships. The PlayStation 5 last year's hard-to-get item is still in short supply, apparently. You also can't get bicycles. Who knew? You cannot get bicycles. What is it about the bicycle? Which part of the bicycle is holding back the bicycles? Maybe it's the entire bicycle. Maybe you just can't get the entire bicycle. Very interesting. Anyway, so that's the front of the Plain Dealer, which is a local newspaper for Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I happen to be today. Tomorrow, join me and I'll be in Madagascar. Just going to keep moving around. Poor producer Carla is going to have to find a newspaper from Madagascar. She's just going to have to chase me around the world just so I can do Backchannel in different places. Staying in Ohio, we're going to go to Dayton Daily News now on this Tuesday, 30th of November, by the way. It's the last day of the month. Tomorrow is December. Tomorrow is December. Everywhere I've been has been so Christmassy. So Christmassy, and I'm thinking... Christmas in November doesn't make sense, but Christmas in December makes total sense. So from tomorrow, when I put my tree up, I will be able to embrace the Christmas. FBI shooter thought of killing for a decade on the front of the Dayton Daily News this morning. The FBI on Monday said that the Oregon District mass shooter had a history of mental illness and had fantasized about killing for more than a decade before opening fire on a Dayton crime teen. Dayton police and the FBI announced on Monday they finished their investigation into the August 4th mass shootings that killed 9 people and injured dozens more. The investigation lasted 26 months and found that gunman Connor Betts acted alone and was solely responsible for the injuries and deaths. And while the investigation uncovered the attacker had a history of mental illness as well as suicidal and violent fantasies, there was no specific warnings that he intended to commit a crime. So, that's the big story about this shooting in the Oregon District. FBI shooter thought of killing for a decade on the front of the Dayton Daily News this morning. Deadline's near for health insurance, that's right. The end of open enrollment season is nearing the end. Deadlines of December 7 for Medicare and December 15 for marketplace enrollments that want health insurance to start the beginning of 2022. Insurance plans can change each year, what they cover and what they cost. So far, more than 200,000 Ohioans, is that how you say it? Ohioans. It's not Ohonians. Ohioans. With marketplace insurance and 2.3 million with Medicare passively keeping the same plan can mean leaving money on the table or losing access to medications and providers. So, there it is. Kind of interesting? Yeah. I was thinking actually I need to get in touch with Covered California and just get a new quote. Because the problem is you stay with the same insurance company because you get used to your doctor and your network and you're like, even though the price is going up, I'm just going to stick with it because it's too much bother just changing. And then if you don't get a quote, like a new quote, you can find that you've been overpaying for years. And this worries me. It worries me that people are too lazy or they can't handle the complexities. So invariably they're just like, whatever. They miss out on a very big discount potentially. So my advice to you is that just get another quote. That's all. You don't have to shift companies. You can just get a new quote. A new variant cause for concern, not panic, Biden says on the front of the Dayton Daily News. It says Dayton area hospitals reported the majority of their employees have gotten the shot as deadlines for healthcare workers to get the coronavirus vaccine loom. Hospitals nationwide feared that vaccine mandates would exacerbate the healthcare staffing shortage, but it appears that the Dayton region will be spared a large exodus of workers, whether or not the mandates survive legal challenges. So there we go. Interesting, huh? Just rearranging some things over here. Just doing a little bit of rearranging. Oh, the San Antonio Express. Right, we'll go to that next. Let's do that. So many new... this whole layout is new, so I'm just, I'm coming to terms with that. I don't like change, should we say. San Express. Useful. Let's have a look. No. Maybe. Here it comes. We'll just wait. We'll just wait together. Oh, it takes so long. At this rate, I might have to have another bite of Twix. I've got so many snacks here. I don't know if you've got snacks with you, but I got a lot of snacks. This Twix was 4 Twixes in one box. Who doesn't like a piece of chocolate? Oh, here it is. Thank you, Carla. Appreciate this. Okay. The San Antonio Express, with variant poses very risk to the world. I mean, this is worrying, isn't it? This is the way they've gone about this. I feel like, they're introducing a new variant into the world, and this is not one of them. I'm just turning off just putting on my do not disturb because I'm worried that people are gonna. Oh, really? That's right, the Netherlands. That's right, that's where they're saying this might have come from. It says the World Health Organization warned on Monday the global risk from the Omicron variant of the coronavirus is very high, based on early evidence saying the mutated virus could lead to surges with severe consequences. The assessment from the UN Health Agency contained in a technical paper issued to member states amounted to WHO's strongest, most explicit warning yet about the new variant, which was first identified days ago by researchers in South Africa. It came as a widening circle of countries around the world reported cases of the variant and moved to slam their doors in an act now, ask questions later approach, while scientists race to figure out just how dangerous the mutant version might be. So, I mean, look, Biden just reopened the border, right? He did it on the 7th of November. Do you remember? So we can't now very well go and close the border on the 1st of December because the country would have only been open for 3 weeks. And people have all booked their flights. I mean, the moment he announced that the country was reopening, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people went and booked their flights to come to America, a place they've not been to for 2 years. So what he's saying, and he's actually being quite clever about this, is he's using the example of getting vaccinated and getting boosted as a reason to look at Omicron and be like, okay, this is serious. How do I deal with this? I get vaccinated and boosted if I wasn't before. Because a whole lot of people are going to use this new variant as a reason to finally get vaccinated. And you know what worries me? Is that the few anti-vaxxers that are still out there, what's their argument now? Now that the USA has vaccinated millions of people, millions, without any issues, what is the argument of anti-vaxxers now? Now that, like, the proof is there. The proof of the pudding is in the cake. It's already out. The proof is out there. Oh, there's my wire. I was looking for that earlier. We're going to talk a little bit later about this. Yeah, exactly. Just get vaccinated already. I said this yesterday. It's like the only way we're going to get through this pandemic, the only possible way that we are going to see out of the other side is if everyone is vaccinated. And by everyone, I'm not just talking about the US, I'm talking about the fact that only 6% of people in Africa are vaccinated. 23% in Southern Africa. It's not enough. It's got to be everybody. It has to be. If they can mobilize people to go and distribute HIV medication in Africa, in the bush, like in the outback, they can get people vaccinated. And the irony is that America is one of the richest countries in the world. And so ironically, we have enough vaccine here and we have enough money here to vaccinate every other country in the world. And yet, this kind of America first concept is probably not going to prove very useful in the long run, is it? Because, you know, there are people here who are vaccine hesitant. And if they're still vaccine hesitant, well, maybe they just deserve to get coronavirus. Because it's like, you have been offered a cure. You've effectively been offered a cure. I just really feel like we really understand this virus now. You've got to remember at the very beginning, when there was all that, you know, right-wing criticism of Dr. Fauci, you know, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. They talk about that all the time. They didn't know anything about this virus. They really didn't know what coronavirus was. They knew it was a coronavirus. But this is before it was COVID-19. Like, they didn't know what it was capable of. They thought that it was transmittable through touch. Do you remember? We were all washing our hands, cleaning surfaces. We weren't bringing in Amazon deliveries because we were worried that they might have... And there were studies going on about, can the virus live on cardboard? Do you remember all that? It was crazy. And I thought to myself, like, is this the world we're going to be living in? We were all stockpiling, you know, Purell. At least I was stockpiling Purell. And so here we are now, 2 years later. And yeah, we're gelling our hands. but we recognize that it travels through droplets that go up your nose. So we wear a mask over our nose and our mouths. Yesterday I was wearing 2 masks all day, a surgical mask underneath, and then a cloth mask on top. And these surgical masks, this is a fresh one by the way, for me anyway, because these elasticated ear things, they're just not big enough for me, and my ears were sticking forward all day. I looked like Prince Charles. I do actually want to talk about Prince Charles a little bit, because I also want to talk about Barbados. This is actually a really big story today and very interesting to me. Barbados has given up its sovereignty as a colony of the United Kingdom, you know? So they have a president now, as of today. And Prince Charles was at the goodbye ceremony. The good riddance ceremony, I should call it. I've been to Barbados. It's a beautiful place. And they did revere the Queen. They like to talk about Her Majesty the Queen because it's their Queen. But I also worry that, you know, having a presidency and becoming a republic brings its own challenges. They might regret saying goodbye to the Queen. And Prince Charles, because of course he's in line to the throne, so he would have been the king for Barbados. Is he going to be King Charles IV? I think he is, isn't he? Isn't there? He'll be King Charles IV. There's definitely a King Charles I and II and III. But I think that Prince Charles will be King Charles IV. Unless they give him a different name. You know this. Sometimes just because someone is christened Charles and they're going to be a king, they could actually be called Henry. They could be given a completely different name. So William, who's in line to the throne, William I, William II, William III, would he be William IV? I seem to think that there's no 4th William and there's no 4th Charles. So there's a very good chance that these two, you know, father and son would become 4ths. Are you looking it up, Carla? It's very interesting to me. King Charles IV. I don't remember learning about a king. Am I right? Oh. Interesting. So his full name is King Arthur Philip George. Is that right? Philip Arthur George. Yeah. Charles Philip Arthur George. That's his name. And apparently, according to producer Carla, because she just whispered it in my ear, he can pick any of those names. So if he doesn't want to be King Charles IV, he could be King Arthur. Oh, that would be amazing to have a King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. That would be great. I would love that. King George, he'd be King George the Sixth. We haven't had a George since the 5th. King George the 5th was our last George, I think. Have we had a 6th? Edward would be Edward the 8th, right? That's right. Yes, King George the 5th was David, right? But isn't that Edward and Mrs. Simpson? Edward and Mrs. Simpson. Oh, Edward the 8th. That's right, but he was the one who abdicated in order to live with Mrs. Simpson, right? Yeah, he was known as David. He didn't like any of the airs and graces of royalty, and he didn't even abdicate. He wasn't even the king for even 5 minutes, was he? Didn't he pass it over, or did he abdicate? I've actually forgotten. Isn't that terrible? All this important history. Do you think if you're an American and you're listening to this and you're thinking, isn't it weird that there's all these kings and queens? Like, what gives these people the right? I personally like it. I actually know from experience that having a monarchy is kind of better for society because it gives you something to strive for. You know, we say, speak properly, use the Queen's English. By having such an upstanding royal family at the top, gives us all something to strive for. Makes me want to wear a twin set in pearls. I mean, you know, you decide if you think I'm being serious or not, but I genuinely think that having an upstanding, well-spoken, respectable family who've never got involved in scandal, that's the secret to a very civil society. All these people claim to dislike the monarchy, and then when it comes to like the Jubilee, like the Silver Jubilee, everybody's out throwing street parties, God save the Queen. There's a lot of hypocrisy. I think fundamentally the British people are completely obsessed with royalty. They love it. They look up to it. I would like to think so anyway. I might be wrong, but I would like to think so. A long way back to duty again, also on the front of the San Antonio Express. It says 20 Davidson Sportster to the University City at San Antonio main campus to study at the library for finals. Eyeing the vintage style bike, which he'd washed the day before, he took a snapshot of it before jumping on it to head out. Approaching an intersection, he kicked the Sportster into neutral and slowed. He just switched gears after the traffic light turned green when he saw the driver of a truck next to him slam on his brakes to avoid a white Chevrolet Suburban rolling like a bowling ball into oncoming traffic. You've just killed me, he thought, looking at the SUV. That's about the time. That's about all the time Martin, then 26, had before he was thrown over the handlebars. He got a nasty case of road rash on his arms and had trouble moving his fingers. The ligaments were damaged. Martin looked up at the driver and was about to yell at her when he saw a shocked expression on her face. She was staring at his left leg. Oh, his foot got disconnected. I should have pre-read this story. If you're having your breakfast right now, I can only apologize. I mean, this is really a very distasteful story for this time of the morning if you're having your breakfast, or indeed your lunch if you're with me on the East Coast. Anyway, he lost his left leg. I don't know why. He's an airman. The headline is "Badly Injured Airman Credits Supporters His Return." So now he has like an electronic prosthetic leg. Earned his bachelor's degree from UTSA. It's a nice story, at least it has a happy ending. Getting it's wonderful. His bachelor's degree. Stops for infractions seen as pretext for police searches. Also on the front of the newspaper, it says police describe traffic enforcement as a matter of public safety, a way to discourage motorists who sped, run, and something else. Elvis has joined us. Jeff has joined us. Thank you very much, guys. It's nice to know that you're here. Stacey says it's not going to flip anything until we get all the countries vaccinated. That's right, yes, talking earlier about vaccines. And I was saying that until every person in every country, there's 7.8 billion people on this planet. So that's the number of people that we need to vaccinate in order for us to start to see this pandemic ending. But at the same time, the boss of Moderna yesterday said that he doesn't know that this vaccine will work on Omicron. So he's going to have to make a new vaccine. Now, the conspiracy theorists and the anti-vaxxers are going to be like, well, that is just the big pharma saying that we're going to have to make more money and we're going to have to be paid again. I mean, And yeah, you have a point. I mean, I understand. It does seem like that. Zander, hi. Thank you for joining us in South Carolina. But I also recognize that who else is going to do it? Big pharma make money. They also make vaccines that work. So, pick one. Jeff, Elvis, Xander, Stacy, thank you for joining us. Great to know you're here, joining in on Backchannel. If you want to watch on YouTube, there's a live stream on YouTube. You can do that too. Just go to YouTube and search my name, Anthony Davis, and then the word Backchannel, and you will see it there. Feel quite kind of close up in this sequence today. Like I feel like my head is huge in this. Different. So know you're hanging out. This is Backchannel. At any time, all you have to do is say the wake-up word to your Alexa device. Oh, I said the word to your Echo device, followed by say, and then your message. I've got to try not to say that word, because if you say that word, it tends to wake things up in your home, and I don't want to wake things up in, especially your. No, let's go back to the final news. Let's have a look at that. It says school winners declared. Ohio announced the first winners of a Vax 2 school drawing on Monday, with more winners to be announced throughout this week. The first 30 people have earned $10,000 scholarships in return for getting the COVID-19 shot include these 30 people. I won't list their entire names, but it's rather wonderful. Vax to School is an initiative by the Ohio Department of Health to increase COVID-19 vaccination rates among young people, especially with the shot recently getting approval from, where did that go? Oh, yes, to be used for those as young as 5. I need to get my daughter vaccinated. That reminds me, I must book it. I need to book it. Because, you know, in California, it's mandated. By January the 1st, kids have to be vaccinated if they're going to go into LAUSD schools. It says this age group has the most room to grow in getting vaccinated, and with the Delta variant in our midst, it's the group we're most concerned will miss in-classroom opportunities if they get or are exposed to COVID-19, said the governor, Mike DeWine. So as of Sunday, only a quarter of Ohioans aged 19 and younger have received their first dose. The next lowest rate for those is ages 20 to 29 at 52%. What is wrong with people? It's politicized. It's been politicized. It's too late. How new variant got its name and what it means, it says, so they say here public health officials recently have raised alarms over a new variant of the coronavirus that could fuel a global surge of COVID-19 cases, the WHO said. Named after the Greek letter, the Omicron variant is the 13th variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus that has received a Greek designation under the World Health Organization's classification system for variants of interest or concern. And as with other named variants, WHO's Technical Advisory Group on Virus Evolution said the variant rose to level of concern given its several mutations that may have an impact on how it behaves, for example, on how easily it spreads and the severity of illness it causes. Several others, such as Delta, remain listed as variants of concern or interest and also have Greek letter names, while others have dropped off and are now labeled variants under monitoring or formerly monitored variants. So Omicron is just the latest one, and there will be more. So what they're studying at the moment is whether or not the vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna and even the J&J and AstraZeneca, whether or not they work on Omicron, or whether Omicron is one of those spike proteins that's going to evade these vaccines. A story out of Geneva saying the World Health Organization on Monday pushed for an international accord to help prevent and fight future pandemics amid the emergence of this worrying new Omicron COVID-19 variant. The WHO Director General Tedros, he also said that many uncertainties remain about the variant's transmissibilities and severity of its infection. Tedros joined leaders like the outgoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Chilean President Sebastián Piñera for a long-planned and largely virtual special session of the UN Health Agency's member states at the World Health Assembly. So there we go. That was the independent. Ohio in this Tuesday morning. It's November 30th, last day of the month. So say goodbye to November. Just think, in a week's time, in a month's time, it's going to be 2022. How did that even happen? That it would become 2022 so quickly. Do you ever get used about? Does that ever happen to me? Suddenly hang on a second, what year is it? And I'm like, is it 2012? I get the numbers mixed around. Is it 2019? How did it get to be 2021? I mean, do you remember when the movie 2001 came out? You thought that was so far into the future. People were like, whoa, 2001. And of course that came and went. 2001 was the year of 9/11. That was 20 years ago. That's just insane to me that was 20 years ago, 9/11. I watched on YouTube by accident a couple of days ago. I say by accident, I totally searched for it. I used to host a TV quiz show in 2001. And so I'm looking at myself on television with hair, in a suit, with a big tie. Do you remember when it was fashionable to have a giant tie? Big fat tie? Loads of people have posted episodes and stuff, and I was like, whoa, that was 20 years ago. And here I am, 20 years later, and I'm still talking to the camera. We do the commercial in the UK. I used to say, at the end of the ad, I would say, with delicious and caramel, it's Twix. One great tasting bar after another. That's how it went. I'll have to check my contract to see if it's okay. But I didn't have any lunch. Only 1 o'clock. And I'm one of those people that don't have fuel inside of me. I can't do anything. I'm literally completely useless. To join in, this is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. Carla, at 1 o'clock, I think we should do the US news update and talk about that. I say 1 o'clock. To you, it's... What time is it for you? Is that 5 o'clock for you? 6 o'clock? Whoa! Now that's getting late. It's nearly 1 o'clock for me here on the East Coast. I'm not really on the East Coast, but I am on Eastern Standard Time in Cleveland, Ohio, home to the Great Lakes, the Lakers, obviously. I'm staying in a very tall hotel, looking out over the whole of Cleveland, and I'm like, wow, is that it? Can I name all of America's Great Lakes, Carla asks. Tahoe? Lake Tahoe, that's one of the Great Lakes. What? It isn't. I think I could name none of the Great Lakes. Lake Erie, is that what it's called? Who knew? I didn't know. I don't think I know much about lakes. I just don't think it's in my armory. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, but lakes, for some reason, have evaded me. Oh no, didn't I? I already did the Independent. I think we're done on the old newspaper front there. I think we need, after 1 o'clock, in like 3 or 4 minutes after this podcast, we can with a little bit more detail. You know, we've got lots to talk about. In the UK mandate, but Biden's basically saying over here that, you know, they don't need to close the border because with vaccines and masking and social distancing, that should be enough. And I actually think he's got a very good point. I don't have a problem with any of that. I think that that's all very salient points that he's making. Yeah, maybe Biden could do with wearing a mask more often as well. He's an old man. I mean, you know, I worry about him. And I'm sure you worry about him too. Okay, where are we at? Oh, I want to talk about those scholarships a little bit later. Have we done that? I don't know. Maybe we've already. But let's do it anyway. Those incentives to get back to. It's happening here in Ohio because young people are hesitant. I feel like people are bored of talking about the pandemic. Like, people have a kind of boredom threshold, and I think it's gone, you know? I mean, I'll be honest, hardly anyone's wearing masks here. Wasn't even a consideration for people. No masks, why should they? Checked into the hotel last night. The person, you know, running the desk, she wasn't wearing a mask. Blew my mind. Because, you know, coming from California, so many people are just like heavy into masks. Nothing. Not a thing. Very interesting. I have a very nice red pen here, and I might use it as a pointer to exclamate some of the things I'm saying. I think I might have stolen this from Virgin Atlantic. It's the strangest looking pen I ever saw. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show, Monday through Friday between 9 and 12. Randy, thank you for joining us. Randy's in California. Stacey's in Texas. We've got Christy, Zander, Elvis, Jeff, Bodie. Morning. Lunchtime. Evening to you. I'm on a days and channel here and continue the show like I was here yesterday and I was in California, Cleveland. Tomorrow I'll be in Cleveland as well, but the day after I'll be back in California. God willing, because flying internally in the US is a Russian roulette. I actually nearly missed my connecting flight because I was sitting at the gate. I was sitting right at the gate, but I wasn't facing the gate. I was like facing to the side, and I was working on my laptop, and I was on the internet, and I looked over, and there was nobody at the gate. And it was full when I'd last looked. And I was like, wow! And I grabbed all my stuff, and I piled over there, and literally I was like the fourth to last person to board. I was like, when did you guys board? She's like, oh yeah, we boarded. I said, well... And actually, that's kind of typical of me, because I have nearly missed a few flights because I get so comfortable that I know what's happening. Like, I've got this down, you know? And I go and have a little salad or a little drink somewhere, and the next thing you know, it's like the time just goes so fast. A 90-minute connecting flight just seemed like 10 minutes to me. I did stop for a lobster roll. Maybe that has something to do with it. Do you know how much a lobster roll was in Minneapolis Airport yesterday? I was taken aback. With the tax, it was $30 for lobster roll. With the tax, it was $30. But just airport price. They get you. You're stuck there. You know, you just have to pay the airport price. Just occurred to me that was the case. It's interesting, isn't it? We're living in this kind of new world now, where, yeah, you are effectively. You're effectively at the mercy of whatever they choose to charge you. It's a little bit like being signed up for this thing called Clear, so I could jump the line at security. It's the same thing. You're a captive audience. You're not in a rational place to make decisions. You respect it. You see somebody in a uniform, and you're just like, yeah, okay. I'll just do whatever you say. He has to go. I'm sorry. Thank you for spending some time with us. James joined us from Oregon. Hello, James. Randy's in California. But, you know, you're welcome to come and go. I'll be here. I'm here for a couple of hours. Your pal Hal's on after me at noon? No, 11 Pacific. 2 o'clock Eastern. Carla, should we try the US news update? Let's do that. And while we do that, I'm actually going to call you back from a different...
It's Tuesday, November 30. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US news update. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden urged Americans to get vaccinated, including booster shots, as he sought to quell concerns yesterday over the new COVID-19 variant Omicron, but he didn't immediately push for more restrictions to stop its spread. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, said on Monday there were as yet still no cases of the variant identified in the US, but it was inevitable it would make its way into the country. Fauci said scientists hope to know in the next week or two how well the existing COVID-19 vaccines protect against the variant and how dangerous it is compared to earlier strains. The new variant poses the latest test to Biden's efforts to contain the pandemic, mitigate its impacts on the economy, and return a sense of normalcy to the US during the holiday season. Other nations were also moving to close their borders or reinstate lockdowns amid a host of other severe measures to prevent the Omicron variant from spreading. But Fauci indicated the US was not following suit. Both sides are telling the Supreme Court there's no middle ground in tomorrow's showdown over abortion. The justices can either reaffirm the constitutional right to an abortion or wipe it away altogether. Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 ruling that declared a nationwide right to abortion, is facing its most serious challenge in 30 years in front of a court with a 6-3 conservative majority that has been remade by 3 appointees of President Donald Trump. Your daily US news update is part of the Volley Network. To interact with my live daily morning show, ask your Amazon Echo Show device to open Backchannel.
And we're back. Isn't that clever? That's a podcast that I do, and it's called US News Update. It's a daily podcast, and you can hear it just by searching for it wherever you get your podcasts. You see? Easy. It's just 2 minutes long every day. It'll drop into your podcast app. So yeah, it's definitely worth looking up, looking for, following, and being part of. I'm Anthony Davis. This is Backchannel. We're in a new studio today. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I've relocated for who only knows why, but I have. Just temporarily. I'll be back in California in a couple of days' time. I'll be doing the show on Thursday from California. So, And it's kind of fun being in like a different environment with new people, learning a new space. Got Carla, she's producing the show. She's in London right now. So she's kind of talking to me in here. This is what this is for. And she's kind of putting me on the straight and narrow. So while it looks like I'm completely autonomous, the reality is I'm just a puppet on the end of her hand. So, you know, if she says it, then I do it. That's just, you know, that's how it works. I've learned to isolate these skills. You can talk to your device if you have an Echo speaker. You just say your wake-up word followed by say and then your message. And then, of course, you can communicate with me here on Backchannel. You can do the same on YouTube. If you're watching the live stream on YouTube, you just have to chat to your device. Say, no, sorry, you don't have to chat to your device. You just have to, you write in the comment section. There's a whole comment section below the YouTube video window for the live stream. And then what I was going to say is that we also have a chat facility, which is on the web. It's a web chat facility. And just go to backchannel.tv. That's where you go. It's a web address, so you just put it in on your phone or wherever you are, and you can chat with me that way as well by typing. So, no excuse not to be involved. So many ways to talk. I've got lots of stuff here. I got a bag of nuts. I've finished the Twix. I've got some Clorox wipes just in case there's no. Are like flying by the seat of our pants today. It's just after 1 o'clock on the standard Eastern time or Eastern Standard Time. It's just after 10 Pacific. And welcome to Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show. That's what it says right there. So let's get into a subject we do. I think of the show more as like a 4-lane freeway. Rather than one-way traffic, there's like 4 lanes here. There's like the newspaper review, then there's going in depth into the subjects, and that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to look a little bit deeper into this story about young people in Cleveland, Ohio. We were talking about scholarships being offered in Ohio to convince people to get vaccinated. Well, it says from dollars to cows, donuts, and even drugs, a huge array of incentives are being offered by authorities and companies around the world to win round the vaccine hesitant as they seek to turn a page on the pandemic. Do they though? Do they seek to turn a page, or do they seek to prolong it? Because that's what people are doing, isn't it? Subconsciously, is that they're actually prolonging the pandemic, and it's a shame because I'm done with it. You know, I'm like over it now. I'm like, you can keep your pandemic. I'd be very happy for it all to be over. But the problem is, if you are vaccine hesitant or a conspiracy theorist or anything, you're actually making the pandemic last longer. Which is great for you because it means that you can be crazy for longer. Making stuff up. Anyway, it says Moscow authorities have been handing out 5 cars a week in a prize draw for the vaccinated. Londoners got the chance to win tickets to the final of the Euro 2020 soccer championships, and Romanians, well, they just barbecued a sausage sandwich. So, can convince people to just get vaccinated already? Researchers are struggling to figure out why people don't get their COVID shots and what language might persuade them. Saying, you've got to, seems to work. I mean, that's what I recommend. Just make it mandatory. I honestly believe that. There's been enough vaccinations, man. Been what, like... There's been 4 billion vaccinations or 5 billion vaccinations with no serious adverse effects. You know, the standard, of course, we all get side effects from vaccines, but they're mild. And if it's a choice between getting the side effects of the vaccine versus the illness from not getting the vaccine, this is what Biden said yesterday and what Fauci said the day before. The vaccine side effects will pale into insignificance compared to how ill you will get from COVID-19 if you are unvaccinated. That's the point they're making. And that's what we have to understand. And if you're worried about a sore arm in the jab site, if you're worried about a sore arm, then you just need to grow some. Right? Because, my brother used to punch me in the arm and I would get a sore arm. And that would last for days. So you can come to terms with a sore arm. And you can just take Tylenol and the pain just goes away. And then the other side effects are like you might get a fever. Well, I didn't get a fever. I've had 3 vaccines now. I didn't get a fever. What did I get? I felt a bit woozy. That's all I did. I felt a little bit like, ooh, maybe I wanted to have a little sit down, which is not something I do very often. I'm not a natural sitter downer, you know. I like to spend more time standing up or walking around or doing something. I was forced to sit down. So when people say, oh, what are the side effects to the vaccine? You might need to sit down. That's kind of where it's at. You might need to sit down. So how do we get to yes? How can public health experts and policymakers convince the persistently recalcitrant? Calcitrant? I've never heard this word before. Recalcitrant. Carla, you've given me a whole new word to play with. recalcitrant fraction of people who haven't got. I presume recalcitrant is like a percentage, right? It's like a number of a percentage of a group. Or is recalcitrant people that are hesitant? Is it more about people that are hesitant? Oh, an uncooperative attitude. I'm going to right-click the word and see if it gives me the opportunity to look it up. Here we go. Look it up. All right. It says recalcitrant. Oh, nothing. So here we go. It's an adjective. Having an obstinately uncooperative attitude towards authority or discipline. Fascinating. I never knew that word. I'm going to use it all the time now. The show is very generous. I really feel like giving you a word a day is just really like it's changing everything. You could say like a class of recalcitrant 15-year-olds. Recalcitrant. I'm going to get that into every sentence I do over the next week or two. I'm going to be saying it. I'm going to say it in places it didn't even need to be said. Recalcitrant. How can public health experts and policymakers convince the persistently recalcitrant fraction of people who haven't got vaccinated against COVID-19? It's the key to ending the pandemic and a brutal irony in the United States, one of the few countries with the money and the wherewithal to have enough of the drug for every citizen. More than 700,000 Americans and more than 5 million people around the world have died from the disease. Vaccines against it reduce illness, they reduce death and transmission, and it would be very good to get unvaccinated people to become vaccinated people. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking them to, convert to some, we're not asking them to convert to some faith that they don't believe in. Carla, I love your face when you really come towards the camera like this, like you've got something very, very important to tell me. She's like, she sits on the screen next to me, you see, and she kind of directs the... she's plugging something in. I see. So what incentives are necessary to get people vaccinated? Which is more effective, rewards or deterrents? What are the medical ethics of these types of schemes? You can let me know by chatting in the usual way. You can talk to your device. You just have to say the wake up word followed by say, and then your message. Easy. Easier said than donezier. So give it a go. It's quite noisy, the whole thing, isn't it? It's quite noisy. It's a bit worrying the way that thing like hangs off the ceiling like that. Look at it. Hanging off the ceiling. See, there's a little bit missing from up there. It should be like this. Other people's equipment. It's not mine. Other people's equipment. This is what I'm dealing with today. Other people's equipment. Sean has joined us. How on? Sean's in California. Sean, where have you been? Thanks for joining Backchannel on this Tuesday morning. It's the 30th of November, 14 minutes after 1 right now here on the East Coast. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio today. It's 14 minutes after 10 if you're in the UK. And not in the UK, if you're in the West Coast. My time zone brain is all over the place. I have relatives in the UK. I live on the West Coast. I'm currently on the East Coast. You tried living with this kind of inconsistency. And then when I stopped yesterday in Minneapolis on my way to Cleveland, that was another time zone. That was just 2 hours forward ahead of where I started. And I was like, my poor watch was like changing time all the time. It was like, what are you doing to me? Couldn't keep up. Anyway, we're spending the day together. We're spending a couple of hours together here on Backchannel. So, let's go back to some of our conversations. We're talking about what is necessary when it comes to vaccines, which are more effective, rewards or deterrents. Is the deterrent that you could get fined if you don't take a vaccine that is mandated? How do you feel about that, being fined for not taking your vaccine? I mean, schools now have mandated it. Certainly in California, where I'm from. But I don't know, I feel like people are just so political now. In fact, they're not political, that's a lie. People are not political. I don't think people are political at all. I think they're a cultist people now. People have become cultist. So to be political is to be an activist. To be political is to really care about other people and want change. That's to be political. But just to be a stick in the mud and be like, nah, I don't want a vaccine because I don't want a vaccine. Or, it's an infringement of my freedom. It's like, do you really believe that? Like, do you really believe that? Or is that just like what everybody else is saying in the cult? And therefore, if it's being said in the cult, then maybe I should say it as well. Because I actually think people are very reasonable. And I think if you were to really talk to people and explain to people and make them understand, they'd be like, yeah, fine. Fine. And I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today, all of the people who have lost loved ones in this pandemic who were not vaccinated have all said, in hindsight, they have wished that their relatives were vaccinated. All of them. They all said it. I think about Steve Jobs because he was very hippie-like. And he didn't, he had cancer. He had pancreatic cancer. And he could have been treated, and he didn't want to be. He wanted to do it through, complementary health changes like diet. But I don't think he wanted to do chemotherapy. And I don't think he wanted to kind of go through all of these traditional Western versions. He was like, I've got pancreatic cancer. This is just this is how it's going to end up. And arguably, if he had have done some treatment sooner, then he could have been cured or potentially lived longer. But it was very sad to me that that was his view, that was his belief, that he didn't want to kind of interfere with nature. And if that's your view, I don't argue with that. If people are like, I don't want to interfere with nature, yeah, okay, I get it. But then you can't complain if you get really ill. And the problem and the difference between pancreatic cancer and COVID-19 is contagious. And pancreatic cancer is not contagious. So you can't apply the same logic. Because we're talking about a virus that is transmissible very easily. And this new variant, Omicron, spreads like wildfire. And that's the difference with this variant. It just spreads like wildfire. So I'm asking you today, if you wonder what kind of measures Biden or, the authorities should go to get people to take the vaccine, which is more effective, a reward? I mean, maybe if it came with $100, they said, okay, if you take the vaccine, you get $100. The problem is they've already vaccinated a whole bunch of people, and those people will be like, where's my $100? You can't bring in this kind of gift so late in the day. But I am interested to know, how you think the government should handle it. More and more people I hear about are just like, they're just not buying into it. They think the whole thing is a scam. And it's like, I'm so surprised that after all of this time now. Hi, Riyadh. Thank you for joining us on Backchannel. I'm Anthony. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio today, Riyadh. The home of the Cleveland, what are they called? They changed their name. No, they're not called the Cleveland Indians anymore. They had to change their name because Indians is considered inappropriate. So they're called... No, the Cleveland Indians changed their name as well. They're called Cleveland something else now. Because, there are certain words like Indians that are considered to be a different generation. We're in a different generation now, So like we're living in a time where you have to like rewrite all of these words. It's very important. You just have to rewrite all of this stuff. Have you looked it up, Carla? What are they called? The Cleveland... They've definitely called themselves something else. They're not called the Indians anymore. That's right, it's the Guardians. They changed it to the Guardians. I'm sorry that you're upset about it, but you can't say Indians anymore. It's disrespectful. I guess that was a reference to Native Americans, was it? Is that how that started? It's interesting. But it's important that we change. Once we recognize that something is offensive, we change. We don't stick with it and hope that, it'll go away. Riyadh, Sean, James, Randy, Elvis, Christy, Xander, Jeff, thank you for joining us on Backchannel this Tuesday. It's 21 minutes after 1 here on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you're very welcome as well, or somewhere in the middle, as I was yesterday when I was in Minneapolis, briefly. Apparently one of the best sports movies of all time is, what was it called? Major League, that's right. Major League is a comedy, and it's about the Cleveland Indians, who are now called the Cleveland Guardians. I mean, it's still got Ians in it. Wesley Snipes is in it, apparently. It's supposed to be very good. Weirdly, no, I'm not a big sports fan. I don't really like sport. Oh, Sean says the Charlie Sheen one. That's right. Charlie Sheen's in it as well. Yeah, it's a good film, apparently. Riyadh says, what's up, Anthony? Well, I'll tell you what's up. I'm in a whole new city. I'm in a whole new time zone, Riyadh. You know, I've got all new equipment. This is a whole new system. And it's really nice to be, in a different place. I haven't traveled for 2 years. I have not taken a plane, a boat, a station wagon, nothing. I'm in a whole new city. Happened overnight. I literally flew overnight to be able to be here. So I'm in a podcast studio. I'm in an actual podcast studio. This is not even my microphone. This came with the building. Yeah, Backchannel on the road. He says, it looks and sounds pretty good. Thank you, because I make the effort. You see, it's all about the detail. My little ring light looks like it's dying. Hang on, let me just give it a bit of a boost. Yeah. Sean says it sounds a little blown out of the upper end, but essentially it's okay. Really? Oh, I see. When I make a lot of noise, I'll try and talk more quietly. Maybe I can fix that. Maybe I'll just turn it down a little bit. We have the ability to make changes. Here we go. Just bring it. There we go. That's a big difference. There we go. Hopefully that's made enough of a difference. I could even turn it on here. Here we go. 1, 2. There we go. Look, see? Oh no, did that get louder? I don't know. There's a lot of buttons to play with here. I don't know what. I don't even know what I'm doing. I think I might have got it wrong now. Now I'm going to have to talk even quieter. There we go. Oh, there we go. I found it. There we go. That's more like it. Oh no, that's the headphones. Oh, this is turning into a whole thing. Oh, and now that's twisted. Oh, goodness me. Oh, something plopped off. Okay, I can only apologize for the break in service. Okay, so let's go back to this conversation that we were having, because we were talking quite seriously about what incentives are necessary and what is more effective, rewards or deterrence, when it comes to, getting people to get vaccinated. Because, Biden yesterday is talking about Omicron and how the only way to really deal with this is to get everybody vaccinated, and in a way the timing of this new variant is quite useful to him, because there was this last percentage of people who were refusing to get vaccinated, and hopefully this new variant is going to be the reason why they change their mind. I would like to think. I really feel like I'm looking at this now. Pattern. Okay. Yeah, Mike Pence is the next on the agenda. We're going to talk about him. Nicest possible way, of course. Oh, there we go. I think I worked it out. Oh, that's better. I found the right button. After all that, I found the right button. There we go. Now I can hear myself properly. And just the other side. That's all I had to do. That's all I had to do. Okay. Now we're talking. Now that's better. That's much more like it. Now I feel like I'm making some kind of progress. Thank you. Sorry about having to make technical adjustments during the show, but it's a new studio. It's like a whole new thing for me. And I'm like a creature of habit, you know? Like, I like my stuff. I like to know where it is. I like to know where it's at. Deborah's here. Deborah, thank you for joining Backchannel. Deborah is Hal's mum, your pal Hal, who's on next. She's, I just realized I need to press this little button. Formerly Debbie when she was younger, but now she's more mature. She has definitely changed her name back to, you know, her full name anyway. Like messing around looking for stuff. There we go. I need to turn my light back on. There we go. If you're listening to the show on YouTube, like if that's kind of where you're at this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you're at. If you're looking at this show on YouTube, then I recommend that you can type on the comments section. You can use that just below YouTube. There's a whole comment section. And if you are not using the comment section, then of course you can simply go to the backchannel.tv chat facility, another way of getting in touch. So many ways to be part of this show. Very loud. So just trying to work it out any your problem. New equipment, new studio, love. We also want to like Pence story because this is something that's very, very, it's a big deal today. You know, it's like something that is, it's the big story is really tomorrow. This is the abortion case. You know, it's another once in a generational moment where Mike Pence is going to potentially see the end of the Roe v. Wade days. You know, those days could be numbered if Pence gets his way. So we're going to look at this in a few minutes as well and just talk about whether or not in 2021, taking away a woman's right to choose after the landmark, it was like 1973 when Roe v. Wade first happened. So in 2021, how it is that we're now looking at this again. Like, surely we can only evolve in like a futuristic fashion. We can only look forward, be more progressive. I do think that maybe this is the crux of this whole conversation. It's as if moves on, as time goes on, we do not want to be more open and less closed. Do we want to be more forward-thinking and less closed? We want to be democratic and less still. These are the things that need to change in our modern society, I would have thought. It seems to me like it's going the other way. You know what I mean? It's like, how did that even happen? This is Backchannel, where you get the chance to say your version of events. So, of course, you can talk back to your device. You can just say the wake-up word, followed by say, followed by your message. And then we'll get straight into it. And you can talk to me right here. That's how it works. Let's look at the Mike Pence story, because it's a very big story and it's very important. So basically they're saying that... where's it gone? Here we go. It's very interesting to me. Or, you know, Mike Pence character, because some people say a funny little character. He's like, some people are like, oh, Mike Pence, you know, he's... doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. Trust me, Mike Pence is going to run for president. He's going to want to get the Republican nomination. I have no doubt about it. He sees, you know, he's a former radio talk show host, like one of these Christian talk hosts. That's what he used to do. He loves the sound of his own voice, that kind of fake, like, earnest thing. Yes, well, it's very concerning. Yes, well. And I know Mike Pence. I can tell that you are being insincere. Like, I can tell. I know you're being insincere just by the way you're pretending to be really sincere. I know that you're not. And I do question, like, who thinks he is being sincere? Like, who falls for that? Who thinks that that is sincerity? Anyway, on the eve of oral arguments in the most consequential Supreme Court abortion case in a generation, former Vice President Mike Pence is predicting that the days of Roe v. Wade are numbered. He says, when Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, and I believe with all my heart that day will come, either now or near future, it will not come as a surprise to anyone, Pence is to say today, according to a copy of his remarks previewed by the National Review. It will simply be the culmination of a 50-year journey and have out there. I think it could be a premium subscriber to get any more than that. But anyway, that's a look. I've listened to Mike Pence talk about, and also I think pro-life is the wrong way to do it, because this is what they've done. They've branded abortion as them being pro-life. And that's actually a bit of a distraction from reality, isn't it? Because if you think about it, and I've had 2 children, and I understand the process. A baby is when it's born. That's when the baby comes to life, when it is born. In my view, might not be yours. I don't disrespect your view. I'm just explaining my view. And by saying that at 6 weeks or 16 weeks that baby is alive and living and is born, hence pro-life, you are putting on a personal opinion onto a scenario that maybe is questionable. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying it's questionable. So pro-life is propaganda. The phrase pro-life in itself is propaganda. Because some believe that the baby does not yet have life, because it doesn't have a life, doesn't have memories, it doesn't have the ability to do anything for itself. It's still being fed through an umbilical cord. It's not fully developed. You see what I mean? And so I think pro-life is a very weighted phrase. And so we have to be very clear about the rebranding of this. Now, if they want to say, okay, we want to ban abortion, if they want to use those words, then I think there's a more clear version of what it is that they really care about, in my opinion. And there's more, it seems to me from the campaign that there's more old white men campaigning for this than young women who are more likely to carry a baby inside their womb than Mike Pence. I mean, maybe Mike Pence has a womb. Maybe he knows more than I do. But it's just very interesting to me that the way this is all presented, the way this is all phrased, the argument, and Republicans are very good at this. They're very good at branding pro-life. Kind of gives you the feeling that, I should be pro-life. Of course, because it's pro-life. I'm for life. But not the argument. The argument is, talking about banning abortion is effectively what they're trying to do. So you can argue till the cows come home what this is all about, what it really means. But in reality, it's not really the case that they're making. And my view is that Roe v. Wade was fought for decades. And it finally was made law in 1973. And here we are in 2021, when the country is more divided than ever before. And I don't believe that people's views about abortion have really changed. I just think they want to own the libs. I think the right wing just want to own the libs at whatever cost. And this is a really good thing to do that's going to really sock it to them. That's my version of events. I'm sure you have your own. And that's the whole point of Backchannel, is that you can have a view, you can get in touch, you can have your say, you can talk back to me, and then we'll have that conversation. So just let me know. You can say the wake up word followed by say, and then your message. And you can also type on the Backchannel web chat. Just go to backchannel.tv. And of course, if you have YouTube, and some people are streaming this live on YouTube, you just have to go onto your YouTube And then there's a comments section below, and then you can just write in the comments. So there we go. It's very simple. 3 ways to get in touch, and an unlimited number of opinions that you're welcome to have. So knock yourself out. Realize that this is a very polarizing topic for people, especially if you have like a religious connotation. I recognize that. And so, I believe everyone's entitled to their view, but I also have a view that the world should be moving forward and not backwards. So it's like, maybe we could take some equivalent things to what I believe would be equivalent. So like to make like race hate crime legal. Would that happen? Oh, it's okay to make race hate crime legal because, we're going back on all of the whole civil rights movement in the same way as the whole women's rights movement was a period in time that is still going on. What is it about women's rights that for some reason, to some people like Mike Pence, are less important these days than civil rights? Do you think Mike Pence would still fight for civil rights? Do you think he ever fought for civil rights? But why is it that women's rights are less important than civil rights at this moment in time? Or are they all the same? Are they all the same? I mean, I personally think that voting rights are more important than all of these things. And they don't seem to be doing much about voting rights at the moment. So there's so many variables here. And I really believe that we need to be very clear about what it is that we are talking about. And of course, you're very welcome to be in touch, to talk back, to have your say and have your view. Keeping you informed on all these big stories. That's what we've been doing, looking through the morning papers, talking about Omicron, which is, of course, the big variant that shaken the world. But my feeling is maybe it's going to turn out okay. I have a feeling, although the boss of Moderna said yesterday that there's a very good chance that maybe Moderna won't work on Omicron. I actually have a feeling that maybe we'll be okay. It's just a little feeling of mine. Okay, another in the last Christmas. I'm like a fan of Christmas. And I just wondered we could have a little conversation about whether or not you think that Christmas is still the kind of spirited festival that it always was. Or has it just become like a marketing gimmick for retailers? The displays these days start after Halloween, and then they're packed up to make way for Valentine's. And then, the crowds and the store. I mean, I love it. Bring it on, I say. I really like any kind of celebration. I just love a celebration. Maybe you feel differently. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, nah. Deborah, thank you for your messages. She says, women's rights are the most important. Equal rights, equal pay. And do you see and thank you, Deborah, I appreciate that. But do you feel that a women's right to choose, which is how they've branded abortion on the left, pro-choice versus pro-life on the right? I mean, can you see how both of those are questionable? I mean, pro-choice, I guess, makes a little bit more sense, but pro-life is loaded. It's a weighted phrase because there are just as many people who don't believe that a child is alive until it's born, or certainly until it's at 26 weeks of pregnancy. That decision is going to be made tomorrow by the Supreme Court. Let's not forget 3 right-wing anti-abortionists on the Supreme Court. Amy Coney Barrett, I presume Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch. Is this the reason why abortion could be banned in America? Will you have to travel abroad? I mean, already people are having to travel outside of Texas, but only the people that can afford to. And invariably it means, people that have the least, people that have the least income, the least money, are the people that are going to be most impacted by this. But maybe Mike Pence doesn't really care about that. Like, conceptually, he doesn't want to think about that because he's so obsessed with this pro-choice phrase that the idea that some people, i.e. people of color, might fall on them harder is not, it doesn't really bother him because, Mike Pence's views, he's got a very kind of gentle way of presenting these things. But in reality, he has quite extreme views. That Mike Pence might be lining himself up as a future presidential candidate. And I actually would quite like to see Pence and head in a debate. Actually, that's not true. I don't want to tempt fate. I don't want to see Trump anywhere near a presidential debate. Because I really feel like Mike Pence fancies himself as a bit of a celebrity. But the thing is, how could Mike Pence run for the presidency when so many of the Trump supporters are angry with him for not overturning the election? Isn't that going to make him considered the enemy? I mean, Trump's already kind of disassociating himself from Mike Pence. It's interesting, isn't it? So we're looking at Christmas as well this afternoon. Peace and goodwill towards men is a facade. Why is it limited to once a year? This is such a lovely construct. The idea that Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus anymore. It's all to do with shopping and eating. I mean, people are influenced to court bankruptcy in order to prove their love for family, friends, and the baby Jesus. Those that try to rein in the spending or turn toward a more spiritual celebration are seen as lacking Christmas spirit, or even, dare I say, miserly. Dare I say it? Crazy, isn't it? So this is the world we're living in now. We're living in this kind of polarized world of if you don't get presents, that means that you're not generous. I mean, I like the phrase small Christmas. I've heard a few people use that this time around. I'm going to have a small Christmas. I'm not going to overextend myself. I'm going to give someone the gift of kindness rather than the gift of wrapped up. The gift of kindness, a Christmas present, because that's what I'm giving this year. I'm just doing kindness. So anyway, we've got lots going on at the moment. The Christmas movies, I watched a Christmas movie for the first time a couple of nights ago, and I'd never seen it before. It's quite an old film. I can't remember what it's called right now. It'll come to me at some point. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of stars in this. How did I miss this one? It was, I can't remember what it was called. No, it's not Love Actually. Love Actually is in my top 3 films of all time. Love Actually. No, I'll tell you who's in it. Maybe you can tell me what this film is called. What's her name? Sarah Jessica Parker. And Rachel McAdams. And Diane Keaton. And Luke with the famous brother. Luke. Oh, what's it called? Luke Wilson. Yeah. Because Owen Wilson's the brother, right? Can you imagine having to be Owen Wilson's brother your whole career? Why don't we get, we can't afford Owen. Let's get Luke. Cheaper. Not quite as funny. Not quite as cute. Cheaper. It's very interesting to me. This whole thing is very interesting to me. I really feel like we are living through the weirdest time in history. Like the weirdest time in history. I'm even having to talk about that. They're going to be dating abortion rights in the Supreme Court tomorrow. Just makes me think, what happened? Like, did we go in a time machine? This is the weirdest time in history. Can't quite believe it. We're also talking about Mike Pence and if he would make a good candidate for the presidency. I say, yeah, let him go for it because he's going to lose. So let him go for it. Knock him out. He's lose. He's as far as to say that Mike Pence is probably one of my least favorite people. You know, really, like, there is nothing about that guy that I'm drawn to because I just see him as phony and fake. I don't think he actually believes in anything. The way he talks, it's like he doesn't believe in anything. This self-righteous, faux concern for people. Doesn't make it. I do love all the kind of those backdoor conversations about calling his wife mother and he's not allowed in the same room as other women if his wife's not there. These are all rules imposed by Mrs. Pence. Have you heard about all of these things? The whole raft of theories about how Mike has to live his life. It's very interesting to me. I'm not seeking to sway you, I'm just saying that who are these people? Fascinating. Taking on the of becoming a presidential, which is something violent. 9th of January broke with Trump by refusing to overturn 20 election results, and now Mike Pence is eyeing a presidential run all of his own. Even though his old boss hasn't ruled out a 2024 campaign, Pence wouldn't necessarily stay out of the race even if Trump jumps in. And since leaving office on the 20th of January, he's been showing up in states that hold early presidential contests: New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Iowa. And next month, he's set to return to New Hampshire for a Republican fundraising event. He's writing a book and has started a podcast called American Freedom that is a platform to reintroduce himself to voters after 4 years as Trump's most subservient number two. Interesting, huh? So, just been asking if you think that he would make a good candidate. Or if we just never want to hear and see from this guy ever again. There's a huge amount of ego in politics I'm very fascinated about. Oh, and there's something I also wanted to say that I read yesterday. And this is directly related to Pence and Trump and in those last days, you know, after the insurrection on the 6th of January. You know, Trump was still the president through to the 20th of January, right? So the day that Trump lost the election, apparently, when did he lose the election? Like in November, right? It was like the middle of November. Trump goes to Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach. Stops being the president, even though he's due to be the president until the day that Biden takes over. Trump did not read a single President's Daily Brief. It was published in the papers today. Deborah's saying, very odd people, Pence. Oh, what the Pences? Yeah, if I got an invitation to the Pences for lunch, I'd kind of want to go and just troublemaker. But it was very interesting to me that the moment that Trump realized that he hadn't won the election, in fact, that's not true, because I don't think he still realizes he hasn't won the election. He thinks he still won, even though Biden won by 7 million votes. Trump stopped being the president, gave up. So he wasn't reading the Presidential Daily Brief, which is all of the security issues. So if China or Russia or any foe wanted to attack the United States, there was no president for nearly a month. There was no president. He gave up. He didn't want to do it anymore. He never wanted to do it in the first place. I mean, he never really read the Daily Brief. He always was like, tell me if there's something important in it, just tell me. I don't want to read. He doesn't read. The guy can't read. But there was this coverage yesterday, it was a leak, about the fact that Trump, for those last 3 weeks of his presidency, wasn't the president. He was like, I'm done. He went, played golf, hung out, didn't have any of the stuff that he's supposed to do in that role. He decided not to do. Because he was so hurt. So hurt that he didn't win, because the guy can't handle losing. I mean, that's my concern. There's something, and I was thinking about this earlier. The fact he has not yet been prosecuted for spurring on an insurrection. Nearly a year later, it'll be a year in like 5 or 6 weeks, 5 weeks, suggests to me that the American people are effectively learning that it's no big deal to rush the Capitol, stage a coup, and try to overturn the election. That's my feeling. It's symbolism, isn't it? If you let sway with that magnitude, what that say tell? So to me, there's 6 committee until it puts Trump on the stand. To me, it's like it's wasting its time. Because he was the one that said, come with me, let's go. We have to protect the very fabric of American democracy. Like, that's all that matters. That's why I think voting rights is more important infrastructure. Like, the very fabric of this country is its democracy. That's what it was built on. Your right to vote. And your right for that vote to be taken seriously and converted into a win or a lose for whoever the candidate is. And the fact that the last president tried to overturn that suggests to me that we should take it a little more seriously. Because this is an amazing country. This is a free country. This is an opportunity where we can speak. We can say what we think. Some countries you don't get the chance to be free with your speech. So democracy is fragile. And all I'm saying is that if we give him a kind of get out of jail card for that sets a bit of a precedent, doesn't it? Basically says, yeah, insurrections aren't so bad after all, are they? I've really enjoyed going out with you this morning. It's been thank you for spending your morning and your time with me on Backchannel. Backchannel continues, of course, a whole bunch of shows throughout the day that you're very welcome to, listen to, watch, interact. Backchannel is the only place where you can talk back to the host using this technology. It's so clever. I'm going to come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. I'll still be here in Cleveland, Ohio. But stay with us now for your pal Hal. That's right. It's Deborah's son. It's Hal Rudnick. He's next here on Backchannel. Have yourself a really good day. Bye for now.